Hi, this is Dave. Hey, can you make better decisions? Well, I think everybody can if we just give it some thought. You know, one of the things that I believe God wants from every Christian business person is a commitment to excellence, and that means that everything we do the best that we can. And one of the things that we do over and over again is make decisions. And so the question is there a better way to make decisions? And my answer is yes, of course there is. So let's get into it. You know, some time ago, one of my clients challenged me to record the 20 most important lessons I've learned. And after a great deal of reflection, I eventually came with 25. And this is just one. It's this. Everyone wants to make a simple, quick solution, quick decision. Instead of a thoughtful process, they jump to conclusions to their own detriment. So here's the issue. When confronted with a serious problem, almost everyone wants to jump to a conclusion. It's sort of like a 20-second soundbite solution, instead of taking the more time-consuming but more accurate, process-oriented path. Now, granted, my sample is skewered. I work with salespeople and sales managers, sales executives, and small business owners. And it may be that my observation here applies only to that group, but I suspect that it's a universal trait and it's common to people of every profession and situation in life. So here's an example of how this principle works. As you know, I work primarily with sales forces and chief sales officers, CEOs, and sales managers, and so on. I'm often approached by sales leaders and small business owners who are uncomfortable with the compensation plan for their salespeople. So typically these plans are vestiges of years gone by. They were created in a previous generation by people who are long gone for a situation that no longer exists. And so the compensation plan is a problem. So they will often propose a solution and ask my thoughts. So they go from a realization of the problem, they jump to a potential solution. Now, that may work okay some of the time. Generally, a quick solution to a complex problem is almost always going to spin off additional problems. Now, it may allow only a partial answer, or it may miss the mark totally. A quick fix today often leads to more problems down the road. Unfortunately, most people who engage in the 20-second soundbite type of solution are not even aware that there is a better way. And, you know, some are even proud of their habit of jumping to conclusions. They pride themselves on that. Well, again, a far better approach. This is one of the things that I've learned over 30 years of consulting with over 500 different sales organizations. A far better approach would be to create a process that takes all the variables into account and bursts a compensation plan that was fully researched and vetted. Now, it takes longer, but the end result will be far superior. Remember, God wants us to be excellent. And one of the core things that we do is decision making. Can we make decisions better? Yes. So here's another example. I'm often approached by salespeople who tell me about a situation and ask for a solution. Okay, so they may have made a big proposal in one of their customer accounts, for example, and they can't seem to get any resolution. What can I do? They will ask in various ways. And my response is always to question the process that led up to the situation. So in my response to what can I do, I'll say, well, have you identified the key decision makers? Have you created trusting relationships with them? Have you completely identified the customer's needs and interests? Have you uncovered any concerns from their side? And almost always I get, somewhere along the line, I get some no's. No, I haven't done that. In sales, as in most other human endeavors, you cannot expect a satisfactory conclusion unless you've done the necessary work. Just like most other people, the salesperson at my side found an opportunity and jumped right to a solution without doing the necessary legwork that the process requires. And as a result, he's stuck at a dead end. I just finished a module in our Sales Leaders Excellence and Influence course. And this particular module dealt with hiring new salespeople. So in the module, we teach a process, and the recommendation is create a process to hire a new salesperson and then stick to the process. When you shortcut the process and jump to a conclusion, you're much more likely to make a costly hiring mistake. Now, that is true of hiring salespeople, but it's also true of every decision. The jump to a conclusion person is far more likely to propose a solution that manifests his or her biases and beliefs, and those may not be applicable to the situation. In my Salesforce compensation example, the soundbite person may have had a bad experience with some kind of pay plan years ago, and that prejudiced him or her to a bias towards certain characteristics of a pay plan. However, if you use a process rather than jump to a conclusion, the process can be counted on to ferret out and eliminate the prejudice in the final product. Without a process to protect himself from himself, the manager hiring a salesperson is much more likely to let his or her bias influence and create an emotional reaction towards the prospective salesperson. You interviewed him once and you like him, and so therefore you shortcut the process, and that's when you make a mistake. The power truly is in the process. Just as a road trip is mostly about the journey and less about the destination, just as goal setting is less about the goals and more about the self-discovery and the prioritization that occurs within the goal-setting process, so too, almost every important and sophisticated task is much better served by adherence to a process than it is jumping to the end. A well-designed process will consistently and predictably produce far greater results than a leap to the end solution. And it spins off some unanticipated benefits. It almost always, for example, creates greater knowledge and awareness on the part of the processors. Almost every time we've gone through the process to create a better sales compensation plan, for example, the principals have learned something about the sales force that was new to them. And when we create a sales system based on the process a typical customer goes through to come to a decision, the CEOs invariably come away with a greater understanding of the important parts of their business. So one of the unanticipated benefits of process design, process orientation, is you learn something in the process that you didn't know before. Another is confidence. When you go through the process, you have greater confidence in the end result. You know that you've done it right. You've crossed all the T's and you dotted all the I's, and you're confident, therefore, in the end result, and you can buy into it. Your time is much better spent journeying through a well-designed process and come to a solid, defendable solution than it is to propose an immediate solution and to find yourself redoing it again later, or dealing with the unforeseen consequences of a rash solution. So when you're faced with a major task or a serious decision, instead of jumping immediately to the conclusions, just stop and say, what process should I or we use to resolve this? What process should we use? First, identify the process. Don't jump to the conclusion. The ramifications of soundbite decision making are larger than anyone suspects. By the way, in my mind software, my Metamorphosis mind software, that's one of the fundamental building blocks that we build the software on, and that is that a process should be created for every important decision, every important project. Create the process, and we do. So we create processes and we share them with you for important decisions and tasks. So that's in our Metamorphosis mind software. I'll put some links later on. So the ramifications of soundbite decision-making are larger than anyone suspects. That's why I think it's so important. It's one of my 25 most important lessons. And again, it's this. Everyone wants a simple, quick solution instead of a thoughtful process. They jump to conclusions to their own detriment. And that's unfortunate. We need to do better than that. Okay, that's it. We're done. Bye-bye.